Assalamu alaikum doctor. My name is Syed. I am from Team 8 and today I will present on my module of the project. So before I move on to my module, I will first go over the project overview. Basically, our objective of this project was to develop a low carbon initiative community monitoring system, like a system which will streamline the data gathering, the analysis, the report process, the uploading of the documents, mm, uh, uh, to automate all these processes so we can facilitate effective monitoring and management of carbon emission, and also make it easier for the users to upload their bills for competition, to participate in the competition, and make a user friendly UI for our system, so that it will be easier for MBIP staff and participants and secondary Putri residents to take part in low carbon initiatives. There were three stakeholders involved. There was MBIP division and staff. There were participants who will participate in the thing, uh, in the in the competition, and there was a secondary Putri residents. My part was, if we go for use case diagram, my part was validation subsystem, which was user profile type UC11 and validate user UC12. For UC11 user profile type, the normal flow was the user will select the profile type from the login page. The system will receive the selected profile type. The case 12, which is validate user. Okay, the will validate user will be performed. The validate user process check if the selected user is, so the validate user, this UC will check if the selected user type is correct or not. If the user is valid, uh, if the selected profile type matches the valid option from the database, the validation will be successful and the use case will end. There can be exceptional flow here, which will be if the user have selected the wrong user type. So if the user type selected in step 1 of normal flow, the user authentication and login will be unsuccessful. Then the system will display a message which will indicate the user that the selected profile type was not correct, and the user will be asked to select the correct profile type and will be redirected back to the login page to select the correct profile type. There is no alternate flow here because this is like a user profile type. There is no alternate to it. Like, user has to go through this process and the validation has to be successful in order for them to log into the system. If you talk about UC12, which UC11 will use to validate, the UC12 is validation. The normal flow will be the system will receive the selected profile type from UC11. The system check if the selected profile type is valid for the user. If the selected profile type is valid, the system indicate the validation was successful and the use case end. The exceptional flow can be the wrong user type selected. The system should indicate that the validation has failed. Um, and another exceptional flow which can happen is error retrieving the info from the database. So there might be error retrieving or connected to the database. So there should be a message. The message should be displayed stating that unable to authenticate at this moment. Notify admin about the issue. The second part will be notify admin about the issue. The first part will be to display a message stating that unable to authenticate at this moment, stating that there is a database connection error. Okay, doctor. Now I will explain the prototype part of my project. So login page was should be done by Ziyaafser, but as my part was integrated here, so I did the login page interface. So there are two errors which we talk about. One is if the user has selected the wrong type. So this user is a participant. So if he tries to log in as MBIP staff and goes to the login, the error will be shown. Then the wrong profile type selected. Please select the correct profile type, and the user will be redirected back to the login page in like 3 seconds. Another error which can occur is the system, which we talk is error retrieving info from the database. This is when the connection to the database is not successful. So let's say he selected everything correctly, but still there is a error retrieving database. So after this error, the user will be redirected back to the login page in 3 seconds. Now, if he selects everything correctly and the connection to the database is successful, the user will be able to log into the system, and this is how the dashboard will look like once he logs in. I also helped one of my member Phang in designing this participation form. So the use case, Phang will Fan will explain, but I will explain the interface part. So in the participation form, you can see this is how the form looks like. So one of the error which he will be talking about, let's say everything is correctly, but he submits, but there is a error retrieving the database. So a connection to the database is not successful. So this is one of the error which can occur, and the user will be directed back here. Let's say everything went well, the form will be successfully submitted, the prompt will be shown, and the user will be redirected back to the dashboard, and the form will be submitted. Another thing which I helped my member Phang design was upload document. His upload document use case. So use case he will be describing. I'm just describing the interface part. So here the user can directly upload their bills. No need to for manual typing. So you can see there is electricity bill, water bill, recycle, cooking oil bill, and waste bill. So let's try to add a waste bill. So we have a waste recycle bill, so user can just directly upload the PDF document or .png document. So here you can see he has uploaded the document, and also in his use case he will discuss that if there is a wrong, uh, if the again it's going to the database. So one of the error which can occur is retrieving the connection to the database not successful. But let's say everything is went well, and when he uploads, the prompt will be shown, you have successfully uploaded all the documents, and he will be redirected back to the dashboard. So these are the things which was my part and some of the helps I did for my group members. Thank you, doctor. And now my group member Fang will take over the presentation to explain his use cases, which will include participation form, upload documents, and I think one more use case. Thank you.
So much, Doctor. My name is Phang Sun, and I am from the No Name Group. For my presentation, I am going to start with the use case diagram for our system, which is the LCS control system. Inside this use case diagram, as you can see, we got two users for our system, which is the participant and also the MPFP staff. And the relationship between the participant and also the resident is because the resident can be one of the participants. So here's the relationship between the participant and also the resident. Inside this LCS control system, we got four subsystems here. As you can see, for the first one is information management subsystem. For the second one is user access engagement subsystem. For the third one is analyze data subsystem. And for the fourth one is validation subsystem. For the use case distribution here, for me, I'm going to in charge in UC002, UC003, UC004, and UC013. Which is referring to the information management subsystem, the first subsystem inside the LCS control system. For Vinodh, he's going to do the UC006, UC007, UC008, and UC009, and UC0010, which is referring to the analyze data subsystem. For upser part, he's going to do the UC001 and UC005, which is referring to the user access engagement subsystem. For Daniyal, he's going to the UC11 and UC12, which is referring to the validation subsystem. Okay, now I'm going to continue my presentation by giving you a description of normal flow, extraction flow, and alternative flow of use case UC002 collect carbon emission data and use case 003 upload all the documents. For the normal flow, the process starts with the MPIP staff request for data collection process. Then the system will retrieve the data from the database. The data might include the bills and the forms that submitted by the participants. And then the MPIP staff can gather the data on carbon emissions based on the consumption type like electricity, water, and also the waste consumption. The MPP staff classify the carbon emission data into the different folders. Then the collected and classified data will be uploaded and stored into the database. And as you can see here, the extraction flow one is might be happen during the normal flow step 4. This is because then when MPIP staff recognize that the form was incomplete and inaccurate, then the MPIP staff will reject the form and will not classify it into the folders. Then the MPIP staff will request the additional information and clarifications from the participants. Then the normal flow will be executed again to continue with another data. The second extraction flow might happen during the step 5 inside the normal flow because the system when the system failed to upload the corrected data into the database, then the system will display the error message. For the alternative flow is MPP staff cancel the request. The system then will return to the last access page, which is the dashboard that displaying the correction of the forms and the bills. Then the use case is aborted. And now I'm going to show you the prototype of these two use case 002 and use case 003. Okay, this prototype that I designed is basically for the use case 002, correct carbon emission data, and use case 003, upload all the documents. And this prototype is actually for the admin view only, which is for the MPP staff only. When the MPP staff is request for the correction process here inside the dashboard tab, then the system will display the correction of the forms inside one folder and the correction of the bills uploaded by the participant inside another folders. When we click on the forms, then it will display us the consumption type, which are the electricity consumptions, water consumptions, waste consumptions, and recycled cooking oil consumptions. Let's say we are clicking on the water consumption here. And here is the forms that submitted by the different participants for the water consumptions. And basically, this prototype is just for the correction carbon emission data. Okay, now I'm going to continue back with my presentation with the use case specification of use case 004, analyze carbon emission data. And here is the description for the normal flow, extraction flow, and alternative flow. For the normal flow, the process starts with the MPP staff request the analysis of carbon emission data. Then the system will retrieve the stored carbon emission data from the database. So the MPP staff can check for the data existence. If carbon emission data exists, then the system will perform the analysis data and generate the insight, trends, and reports. And NPP staff need to review and validate the generated reports. If the generated report pass the criteria, then the NPP staff request to save the generated report. The system will store the report into the database. If the generated insight does not pass the criteria, then the MPP staff need to edit the report again and repeat the normal flow process. If carbon emission data does not exist, then the extraction flow 1 is executed. So for the extraction flow 1 is basically the system failed to retrieve the stored carbon emission data from the database. So the system will display an error message on the screen and the analysis process will be aborted. For the extraction flow number 2 is the system failed to store the generated report into the database. The system will display an error message on the screen and the upload and storing process is aborted. Then the use case needs to continue back with the normal flow again. And for the alternative flow is MPP staff cancel the request for storing the report into the database. Then the system return to the last access page and the use case is aborted. And now let me show you the prototype regarding this use case 004 analyze carbon emission data. The prototype for the use case 004 analysis carbon emission data is basically extended from the use case 002 correct carbon emission data. And here's the page that I stopped just now for the use case 002 correct carbon emission data. So when the FAP staff want to view the analysis data of the forms that submitted by the different participants, then he need to click on the analysis tab here. And the system will display the analysis data with the status indicate that the usage value. When the participant with the heavy status that means that the usage value is higher. So when the participant want to view the report that generated by the system for the participant Kai, then he need to click on the name Kai. And then the system will display the report for the participants Kai. And for the upper part is basically the general informations and the bottom part is the consumption data that analyzed by the system. And as you can see here, the consumption type is the water and here is the information of the forms. And the general information is basically filled in by the participants in the participation forms. So when the report is no problem, then the MPIP staff can click on the save button, and the system will display back the list of the water construction of analysis data. That's all for the analysis use case 004, analysis carbon emission data. Thank you. Okay, now I'm going to explaining my last use case that I'm responsible for, which is use case 13, fill in participation form. For the normal flow is the participant request to fill in the form, and then the system will retrieve the form and present it to the participants. The system will also display the guideline of input data format when participants are filling in the form to ensure the consistent and correct format. After completing the process of filling in the information, the participant click on the save button and submit button. Then the system will display the declaration form to the participant to take that. And there must be agree all the declaration form before the form submitted. The system will store the forms into the database. For the extraction flow, one is the participant enter data in the long input format. Then the system will display an error message. Please fill in data according to the format. For the extraction flow 2 is the system display error messages on the screen when fails to outlet the form to the database. For the alternative flow 1 is participant cancel the request to save and submit the form. For the alternative flow 2 is participant do not agree and do not tick all the declaration form. Then the system will display an error message and keep displaying the declaration form until the participant cancel and closes the declaration form. And the prototype of this use case will be presented by Daniyal. Since I am just responsible for use case specification for this use case, UC01013 fill in participation form. Thank you.
Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good day. I would like to bid to Dr. Shaliza. So, I'm Muhammad Ziyaafser bin Muhammad Zina. So, today I will be presenting about my use case module in which I'm responsible in doing the user access engagement subsystem. In this use case, there are two use cases, which are first, register and login, which is UC001, and the second one is UC005, which is review subsystem. So the register and login is responsible and is handled by the residents, in which they have to register and log in. And then the review subsystem, the MBIP staff will do the reviewing stuffs. So moving on I will be explaining each and every use case more detailed in flow. So the normal flow for UC001 register and login is, first, the user just have to enter the login page. If the user is new to the system, there is a link under below the login page in which they have to click on the register link, and then it will redirect to the registration page. Second, the user will create a new account, and then the user will have to fill the details and information correctly. And then moving on, the system will validate the details, and then the account will be created. And then the system will add all the details into the database. So that's the thing. And finally, it will proceed to the event 4, in which the system will display the new user to the main page, and then the user are able to access the system. So if the user is an existing user, they just have to log in which they just have to click on the login account, and then the user just fill up the username and password. So moving on is the exemption flow, in which if the user input the wrong details and information, the system will automatically display the error message. And for alternative flow, it is a none. So yeah. Moving on, I will actually be presenting about the Figma high fidelity prototype for register and login. Maybe. All right, so now is the high fidelity prototype demo of our system, in which for my use case, UC001 register and login. So this is the login page of the system. So the user has to input their name, their password, and this user type will be presented by my other group mate. So if we follow the flow as I said in that use case previously, so if the user is new to the system, they have to click here, register, and then yeah, they have to create their new account. So they have to put full name, IC, email, address, city, everything. Password, they just have to confirm the password, and then they have to agree to the rules and regulations. So yes, 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 and then they just have to submit. So once they have clicked submit, they have to log in back. So they have to do the login procedure. So that's what I have said. So if the user have to log in, they just have to log in. They have to put their login ID, password, and then log in. So it will then redirect to the main system. So that's it for use case 001 register and login. All right, so moving on is the detailed explanation of the flow for UC005 review submission. So basically, this review submission is actually the MBIP staff will validate the submission done by the users. So what's the flow? The normal flow would be first, the residents have successfully submitted the participation form and built into the system. And then moving on, the MBIP staff will log into the system. And then the MBIP staff will access the review submission page. And then the list of participation will be shown in the list approval status, whether it's pending, approved, or rejected status. And then the MBIP staff have to select and view the participant. The system will then direct the participant into more detailed participants' information and also the bills uploaded by the participant. And then the MBIP staff will check and review the submission. So that's the normal flow for UC005. Moving on would be the exemption flow, in which if the user submits insufficient document, the MBIP staff will reject the submission straight away. So that's it. And moving on, I will actually explain about the high fidelity prototype for review submission in the upcoming flow. So moving on is the high fidelity prototype demo for UC005 submission. So this thing is done by staff MBIP. So this whole screen is for MBIP staff. So here is the review submission page, where it shows all the list of the users who have filled this form, who have done the participation form, uploaded the bills, and so on. So here you can see there's their names and then the status, whether approved, pending, or rejected. So the Inchi Azmi, I mean the MBIP staff, have to actually go through this pending status once, and they have to verify the submission. So here's the submission date, and view is where they will get more details about the user. So for example, we take Jaden. Okay, Jaden's status is pending. He uploaded all his bills ready, and also let's see his status of everything, the one he uploads. So view. So here's the Jaden's account and all the things that he actually uploaded. So here's the information about him, all the informations and so on. And then here is the documents that he have uploaded, which is the water bill, electricity bill, recycle cooking oil, water bills, and so on. So if the MBIP staff wants to view the document more detailedly, they can just press the view, and then they can view the documents, the bills uploaded by Jaden. So if he feels that this thing is a good one, he feels this is correct, so you just have to approve. So yeah, it goes back to the review submission again, and now you can see Jaden's one status is actually approved now. So this is how the review submission works in this system. So yeah, that's it from my part. So that's it for our presentation. So I just want to say, in conclusion, we've actually gained a lot of information, knowledge during this project, in which we are able to know how MBIP staffs and the users all works together in order to get the information and all. And we are glad to actually help them to build a system. So we hope that we will actually be one of the group that has been selected, and they would actually like the system. So that's it from us. Thank you.
All right, the second use case that I did was UC7, which is publish upcoming initiative. So what this use case is about, how the MBIP staffs add the event or edit the event or delete the old events, posters or information in the system. So first the MBIP will enter the main dashboard, and then they will click the upcoming activities button, and it will go to the upcoming activities page. And once they receive that page, the MBIP staff will click the edit button. This edit button is clicked for them to enter the editor mode. So once they enter the edit button, the MBIP staff will choose the action to perform, which is alternative flow 1, 2 or 3. So for alternative flow, so the first alternative is the MBIP staff can either add new event. So to add a new event, they can click the add button, and then once it's entered, they can click the upload image button to upload a new image of the event, and then they can edit the event detail by typing in the text box provided in the system, and then they can save the button. And once it's saved, it will go to normal flow 6, which shows that the data changes is successful. And then it will then the MBIP staff will click the update button so that it will publish in the system, and then the system will display the event on the page. The same flow goes for the edit, which is the MBIP staff will click edit button, and then the MBIP staff will choose the event that they wish to edit, and then that event will be marked as selected, and then only they can click the edit button to make the changes. So after that, they can, if they wish to change a new image, they can click by uploading image button, or they want to edit the text about the event detail, they can change that, and then they can save the button, and the same flows go to the system display, data changes successfully, and so on. And then last flow is about deleting an event or workshop. This is same as the add, but this is about deleting. So the MBIP staff will click the delete button, and then the MBIP staff will choose the event to delete. So once the event is selected, it will be marked, and then the MBIP staff will click the delete button, and the system will successfully delete the event. And the same flow works on the system display data successfully, and so on. And if the system fail to save the information, it will go to the exception flow, which is system failed to save the event or workshop in database. So the system display an error message on the screen, and it will go to normal flow 3, which is the system will direct to upcoming event or workshop page. So I will show a demo of the prototype. So this is the this is the login for the MBIP staff. Okay, so this is the prototype for the publishing the upcoming initiative events. So first we'll log in as MBIP staff, and then press login, and then we'll go to upcoming initiative, and here it will show all the events that will be organized by the MBIP staff. And then we'll click the edit button to enter editor mode. So once enter the editor mode, we can choose either what action we want to make. So let's say I want to make add an event, so I'll click the add button, and I can upload the image, and I also can add the details about the image, about the event. and once done, I'll click save. Once I click save, it will show and message that the data changes is successful. So click the update button to continue. So once I click update, the new event will be appear in the system. And for the second flow is edit. So I'll press edit, and then I'll choose one event to edit. So I'll click this Iskandar Putri Renda Carbon 3.0 event. Once click, it will mark as selected, and I'll press edit. So then if we want to add new image, we can use the upload image button, and if we want to edit, we can use the text box edit. And once done, we can click save, and it will show again the error message. It will show the pop-up message, which is data changes is saved successfully, and then click update button to continue. So once update, it will go back here, and if we go to the normal mode and press the event, the new content event will be there. And the last option is delete option, which is once we click the delete option, we will choose the event that we wish to delete, and once we click, it will be marked as selected, and then we click the delete button, and then it will say data changes successfully, and click update button to continue. So it has successfully deleted the event. So we click the update, and the event should be deleted. Okay, the third use case is about view carbon footprint. So this use case is regarding how the resident can view the carbon footprint map and its percentage of it on the map. So for the normal flow, first the resident will enter the main dashboard page in the system, and then click the carbon footprint map. Once they click, the system will direct to the map page, and the resident can choose the action to perform, which is alternative flow 1 and alternative flow 2. So the first alternative is to view the map. So the system will display the carbon footprint on the map, and the resident can click on the colored mark on the map. So the system will display the carbon footprint percentage. And once done, then normal flow 5 will be executed, which is use case N. And for the second alternative flow is view consumption data. So the resident can click the graph button. So once click the graph button, the resident will direct to the graph page, and then the resident can choose any of the graph to get more detail about it. So once they click, the system will display the graph details, and then the resident also can click the back button to go back to the previous page, and then the use case ends. So I'll show a prototype how it works. So resident again log in as participation, which is resident also. So you log in, and this is the carbon footprint map. So at here, the user can hold the map and drag to move around the map to look for the places. And then if they click on the colored mark, which is representing the carbon footprint, once they click, it will show. For example, here Putri Harbour, one of the landmark is Caribbean Juice Bar, which shows carbon footprint percentage is 35%, and the zone is in safe zone. And let's example 2 about Legoland Malaysia. So once we click on the red mark, it will show the place, and it will show the carbon footprint percentage is 86%, which indicates in danger zone. And there's some useful information about what is carbon footprint and the zone type, so the resident will get to know what is about that. And then the user can press the graph button to enter the analyze graph section, where it will show how the consumption of the data is distributed according to the graph. Like example, like this graph shows like all the consumptions on 2023, and this graph shows about electricity and water consumption percentage for the past 10 years, and this graph shows about recycled cooking oil consumption percentage for the past 10 years, and the last graph shows that waste consumption percentage for the last 10 years. And let's say the resident wants to get to know more about the graph, about the details, so just the resident just have to click on the graph, and it will show all the information regarding the graph. And once they get to the knowledge about the consumption data and its usage percentage, and then the resident can click back button to go to the previous button, and also the resident can click to the map button to go back to the carbon footprint map page. So hello doctor, I'm Vinodh. So I'm from team 8 and I'll talk about my use case that I have assigned to do. So for use case, there are 5 use cases that I have done, which is 6, 7, 8 and 9. So first I'll talk about use case 6, which is view upcoming initiative. So this use case is about how the resident view the upcoming events or workshop that will be held by the organization. So first the resident will enter the main dashboard page. After enter, the resident will click the upcoming activities button. Then the page will direct to the events or workshop page. Once the resident can see the page, the resident can click on the event, one of the event that displays in the system, and get to know more about that page. What is the event about? After that, once they get to know what's the event about, then the resident can click the back button, and that's how the use case 6 view upcoming initiative works. So I'll show an example in the prototype. So this is the resident, which is created by one of my team members. So first participation is the residents, then we log in. So it will show, then we will click the upcoming activities button, then it will display all types of event that are going to held by the MBIP organization. And let's say I want to get to know more about this Iskandar Putri Renda 3.0 carbon. I'll click this and it will show what is the event about. So once I get to know, I'll click back the back button, and that's how the upcoming activity by the resident to know works. And this will be the last part for me, which is use case 9, insert data in map, and use case 10, calculate carbon footprint. These two use case works together. So for the flow, first the MBIP staff will enter the main dashboard page in the system, and the MBIP staff will click the analysis. Once entered, the system will direct to carbon footprint map page, and then to enter the editing mode, the staff will click the edit button. Once clicked, the system display all the area in the system, and then the MBIP staff can click the area that he or she wish to edit, and once click, the system will direct to the selected area page, and then the staff can only change the area distance covered, and I will explain this in the prototype later. And then the MBIP staff will click the save button. Once it saves it, the system will automatically calculate the carbon footprint, and then it will display a message showing that data changes is saved successfully. And once done, it will ask to click the update button, and once click, and the system will direct it to the selected page again, and the system will display the new carbon footprint percentage. And then the MBIP staff will click the edit button again to off the editing mode, and the use case ends. And I'll show you the prototype how it works. So we log in as MBIP staff, login, and this is the carbon footprint map page. So here will be the map, and the same as how the residents look, but it will have editing mode. So we will click the editing mode, and it will display all the area information to edit. And let's say we want to edit Hospital Medini, and note that the carbon footprint is 49%, and once we click, it will show all the analysis for the area marked landmark with the Hospital Medini. So here will show all the electric consumption, water consumption, waste consumption, and recycled cooking oil consumption, along with the carbon footprint percentage. And on the top, it will show how much the area is covered, and we can label the zone number and the area landmark. So let's say that we want to reduce the area distance covered by the Hospital Medini. So let's say from 5 kilometer I want to change to 4 kilometer. Once change, we just have to save it. We don't need to change the consumption data or the calculate the carbon footprint. What I meant is, once we set the area distance, the system will go to the database, and it will know how much consumption it took for the 4 kilometer around the Hospital Medini. And once it gained the information, it will calculate the carbon footprint automatically. So after this, we will save. Once save, it will pop up the message showing that the data changes is successfully, and we will click the update button to continue. Once we click update button, now we can note here that previously the carbon footprint percentage for Hospital Medini was 49, and now it's 41. So this is what is meant by the inserting carbon footprint data and calculating carbon footprint.